Happy to be back in the studio. My first time in a few weeks. Had some surgery, had some health obstacles, got the flu, and been doing a couple of reruns the last little bit to try and get back to normal. And I'm happy to be here and kind of keeping you guys updated on what is going on in the Tampa Bay real estate market. I want to make sure you know that if you want to know the stats for your house, just go to duncanduo.com. It's going to show you average sale prices in your neighborhood, what's sold, what's on the market, what's under contract, what the trends are. Are there foreclosures in your neighborhood? They're starting to show up in some communities. Are there short sales? All of those things you can see. You can get an understanding of the sale price in your neighborhood, the average sale price in your neighborhood. But the stat that I didn't get to that I want to talk about a little bit more, but the average sale price, I mentioned that it's $470,000. Well, in October, it was $473, September is $475, August, it was $485. So that gives you an understanding from prior to the storm, it's been a downward trend on price since then. We've lost $15,000 in our average sale price, a little over 3 percentage points, or a little less than 3 percentage points in our average sale price from August. Year over year, though, it's a bigger story. So our average sale price in September of this year, $475, it was $489 last year. October, $479 last year, $473 this year. So some depreciation. But last November, we saw our average sale price of $489,000. This year, see it at $470. So now we're looking at the fourth consecutive month with a year over year, pretty significant drop in our average sale price. So we are seeing depreciation in Tampa. Prices are going down. Now, does that mean prices are going down in every product, every neighborhood, and every house? No. There are some neighborhoods doing better than others. There are some communities doing better than others. But the average overall for Tampa home values is on the decline. It's on the decline because affordability, the biggest, most substantial reason it's on the decline was because of the storms. If we hadn't had the storms, I suspect we'd probably see home values more in line with last year's home values, and probably we'd be saying, oh, we had a year of stabilization and a year where values just kind of flatlined. But the storms have a negative impact. And you might think to yourself, well, hey, I live in a neighborhood that didn't get impacted. So why are my home values dropping? And here's why. First off, you don't live in a vacuum. Okay, we are a big market with a lot of things going on, a lot of domino effect, a lot of kind of snowball effect. One thing happens, it leads to others. So let me explain why, even if your neighborhood didn't get hit, why value may be dropping. And so again, average sale price from $489 to $470 year over year, that's a $19,000 drop. That's a 4% decrease in average home value in Tampa Bay. So the average homeowner in Tampa Bay has lost 4% of their equity in the last year. Now, again, is that worse in some areas? Yes. Areas that were hit harder by the storms could potentially be worse. It could also potentially be better. There are some homes in those areas where there's really high demand, where a lot of the homes got wiped out and maybe a home didn't. Is that home in more demand now? Yeah, it might sell at a premium. So it's caused this really weird statistical thing to happen where you can't really apply any kind of straight line principle to anything. What I can tell you is that prices are dropping. They're not necessarily dropping everywhere, but mostly. And there are rare anomalies where a home value isn't dropping, or maybe it's doing a little bit better, or a neighborhood's doing a little bit better. But if you're out there in a community and you think, you know what, prices aren't dropping in my neighborhood, and they're not going to because we didn't get hit, let me explain why you're wrong. You're wrong because a lot of our demand that's driving our values is from all over the country. When you have 2 months of back-to-back catastrophic storms like we had, that shocks movement to our community. That stops people in their tracks. They start thinking about moving somewhere else. They don't want to move to a disaster zone. They don't want to repeat what happened to our area. They don't want to deal with the year or two down the line massive increase in insurance. So it stops demand. Well, when you stop demand and supply increases, and guess what? We obviously know supply is increased because the number of people whose homes were flooded, now a lot of them are selling them. And a lot of people are saying, you know, look, a storm moves people. There are people that lived here or that just moved here. Let's face it, from 2020 to today, we've had so much population turnover. We have so many people from out of our area that moved here that never had experienced a storm. Like me, I've been here 20 years. I've gone through 19 years of a bunch of close calls, never really any major hits. Well, then we got 2 of them back to back. I can do the math on that and say, it'll probably be a while before we get another one, so I'm okay. Somebody just moved here a year or 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they get hit with 2 back-to-back storms. A lot of them are saying, peace out. I'm moving back. I'm gone. So what you have is an increase in supply, okay? Because now you have people that are selling their homes, even if they didn't get flooded, and you're having people sell their flooded, damaged homes. That created inventory. At the same time, you're having people say, whoa, I don't want to move there now because of all this catastrophe. Let's face it, on CNN and Fox every night, they don't put sunshine and rainbows in Florida every day. The mass media showcases our area when it's something crazy. They don't showcase it when it's normal and nice every day. They showcase it when there's a catastrophic storm. So that's the narrative that's throughout the country right now about Tampa. People are freaked out about moving here. We're gonna see a population growth slow down in Tampa, and we're gonna see an increase in inventory in the short term for sure. So both of those things lead to prices dropping and buyers having more leverage to negotiate a better deal. I think that trend continues. I think it continues for a few months. And my hope is with some drops in interest rates and the administration change that we start to see appreciation again, maybe in the 3rd or 4th quarter of next year. But prices are dropping. And you just have to come to the realization of looking at the math on that to understand the why behind it. And so your area didn't get hit. Why do you think your price shouldn't drop? Well, first off, if your comps are from a few months ago prior to the storms, they're not relevant anymore. The whole world changed for Tampa Bay then. Number 2, you've lost buyers. Your home doesn't sell without buyers. You can't go online and, it's not a stock investment. It's not like you can track it online and look at a number and say, oh, that's what I can cash out for. That number doesn't exist if there's not a buyer willing to pay it in the market. It's not like Ameritrade where you can just click sell and somebody pays it, right? It just doesn't work that way. You've got to find an actual buyer to pay your price. And of course, there's investors and hedge funds and cash buyers like myself. They're out there looking for opportunities to say, hey, look, I'll buy that for the right price. So there's always buyers. It's just at what price. So if your neighborhood didn't get hit, you're still going to see value drops. And here's the other reason. Your neighborhood might not have gotten hit, but here's what happens. The likelihood is that the neighborhood next year is maybe something there got hit, or maybe the neighborhood next to that one. You may not have enough comps for an appraisal in your neighborhood. An appraiser likes to use a handful of comps. You might only have 1 or 2 sales. Then they got to go to this neighboring subdivision to find a couple. Maybe a couple in there got hit. Maybe there's a short sale in there because somebody's now distressed and doesn't have enough money or didn't have flood insurance. So all of these things are contributing, and you're going to continue to see prices soften a little bit. Now, are we going to see our prices go from 470 to 250? No. We're going to see 470 to 460 to 450, and then hopefully maybe back up again. But we are seeing some softening of price. That is going to continue. That isn't changing overnight. And it's a trickle effect because this storm's created some distress sales that turn into short sales or foreclosures end up being new comps. And even if you don't have any in your neighborhood, if the neighborhood next to you or the neighborhood next to that or the neighborhood next to that has one, then it'll pull down that neighborhood. And when that neighborhood's values drop and they've got to use one of those homes for your comp, guess what it does to your neighborhood? So you can be in a perfectly fine neighborhood and have nothing happen in your neighborhood and think that you're insulated, and you 100% are absolutely not insulated. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense and gives you an understanding of why some homes might go up in value if they're super, super rare in an area that's in super high demand. Like, I'll give you an example. Waterfront in South Tampa. Waterfront in South Tampa got decimated. I suspect that there will be some South Tampa waterfront homes that didn't get hit, were just being completed, not quite complete, whatever it is, that get completed and sold that will sell at a premium because there's so few of them available that didn't have damage or that weren't impacted, very negatively. So because of a rarity, if you have the only home in the neighborhood that didn't get hit or didn't get flooded, maybe then you a premium. But if you're in an entire neighborhood and your entire neighborhood didn't get hit and you think that you're safe, your values aren't gonna drop, I'm sorry, it's just probably not accurate. Again, rare circumstances, every market's different, every city and community is a little different, but the reality is that the storm caused a lot of damage. It zapped buyer demand, it increased supply, and here's what happens. Real estate values go up with the supply and demand curve. A drop in supply, an increase in demand, what happens to price? It goes up. Well, we're in the opposite of that. We have an increase in supply and a drop in demand. So what happens? prices soften. The stats are going to keep showing us that. So if you are a home seller, get aggressive with your price. Be realistic. Your house isn't the Taj Mahal. It's not the best house in the neighborhood like you think it is. There's a reason you own it. Everybody thinks their house is the best house in the neighborhood. Your house is worth what someone will pay for it. And you have to price it to sell if you actually want to sell. If you don't want to sell, then don't put it on the market. If you don't want to sell it at a price the market will bear, now isn't the market for you. I see too many people. We get people all the time call us and say, I got this $500,000 house, and man, if somebody paid me $550 for it, I'd sell it. And there are realtors that will take that listing, not us. It's a waste of time. No one's going to pay that. You're just going to waste time on the market. Then you're going to get upset at your realtor because the home didn't sell, when all the while, the only reason it didn't sell is because you're in fantasy land on the price from the beginning. So if you want to sell in today's market with prices softening, you have to get ahead of the downward trend. If we think prices are going to drop another few percentage points, you need to price your home at that now. Because buyers are going to look at this data, they're going to look at the math, they're going to see the trend, and they're not going to want to buy your house for what it was worth 6 months or a year ago. They're going to want to buy it for what it's going to be worth in 3 to 6 months, which is probably going to be less. So hopefully that makes sense.